when it comes to mutilating animals, Disney's never going to match this energy again. Like if your thing is seeing kids see their pets being dismembered, and you like Disney movies, if you're in that weird little niche, like this is the movie to watch.
Ask about Illuminati, since the charting up beats. Is it Disney mind control? Is this MK Ultra Deluxe? Occult Disney, we go from real to real. Occult Disney, Bohemian Grove and no more real. Occult Disney, ask about Illuminati. Occult Disney, teach a code to everybody. Occult Disney, the wish upon a star. Occult Disney, you know not to travel far. Oh, Occult Disney, the new brand Pinocchio. Yeah, yeah. Occult Disney, it's above so below. Occult Disney, please enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the Occult Disney podcast, where we try to occult and reinvigorate all our dead pets. Resurrect, man, I'm just losing vocabulary today. That's always a good way to start a show. Hi, it's Matt here. Over there, it's Paranoid American. How's it going? You dead yet?
You know, Frankenweenie is just fun to say.
It is. Frankenweenie. Yeah, it is fun to say. I mean, Stein. It's got those harsh vowels and stuff, you know. Buchler, if you're doing Young Frankenstein, you know. Frankenstein.
Yeah, I guess I could have said it angry too, and angry also works.
For Frankenweenie? Can you say Frankenweenie? Frankenstein works better angry. It's got that German edge, right? Whereas
I guess so. I guess
Frankenweenie's got a weenie.
Sound, yeah, it does. I guess it is hard to be angry and say the word weenie.
Yeah, you are familiar with the theme park use of the term weenie?
Indulge me.
That's the thing that's supposed to, like in a castle park, it's the castle, right? That's supposed to grab your attention. Disney Sea, it's the volcano. Epcot, the weenie when you go into the park is you know, the big ball, Spaceship Earth, and sometimes there's other ones, like you go in a different direction. Like I know Tokyo Disney, so now if you go through a castle, turn right, you have another castle because that's the Bell Ride. That's another weenie, but they call these things weenies. So the question I was going to, since you recently went to the parks, which was the most phallic weenie?
I've never once in my life until now ever heard of weenie in this context before.
Yeah.
The most
Maybe they stopped using the term by the time you were around.
I have to go with Tower of Terror, which also, if you're considering the word phallic, Tower of Terror definitely has a phallic ring to it.
Yeah. Well, at Universal, they have that lighthouse, right, at the Islands of Adventure. That one's pretty phallic.
I mean, that's pretty much all these theme parks are, right? It's the bread and circus, and then usually the circus takes place in the big ring, in the big oval. So like you're either going into a giant vagina or a giant weenie.
I guess I will admit to this. I was at Disney Sea a few weeks ago. I was actually by myself, and while I was passing Mermaid Lagoon, I did stop and spent a minute looking at it. Are any of these particularly phallic? Did they get one into the actual undersea kingdom, like physical one at Disney Sea? The answer is maybe.
I like that. It leaves a little bit more to the imagination.
It does. Okay. Yeah, Frankenweenie. Here's a hot take. I thought it was decent, and then I was like, is this Tim Burton's best movie of the 21st century? I guess Big Fish is better, maybe. I haven't seen Big Fish for a long time. Otherwise, it's pretty rough going. I remember liking. That's why I'm throwing that one out there as maybe being the contender. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I always like the original better, so that's a strike against Tim Burton's one, and which I don't hate, but I'm like, why don't I
pretend that one does not exist? I completely pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, at this point in my life, if I want to get into any chocolate factorying, I will go for the Gene Wilder one. So I can't put that in the Frankenweenie though. I mean, Maybe no. Okay, Big Fish won. Frankenweenie 2. I mean, are there even any other contenders in Tim Burton's filmography?
So if we're talking to hot takes, I've got a really hot take. Beetlejuice.
Oh, that came out last year, and I haven't thought about it. I've seen it or thought about it yet. So that could
it's very polarizing, I think. But
okay, I've mostly heard people that liked it. I've mostly heard people say they liked it. So okay, that's a good answer. Planet of the Apes, no. Corpse's Bride have not seen. Did he direct that? I might have not directed that either. Sweeney Todd, I've never seen that. People like that. Alice in Wonderland, that's a god. Okay. Dark Shadows, pretty bad. Big Eyes, don't think it's supposed to be good. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, that didn't take. Dumbo, that's a vision of hell.
I have to, see, I think I've just blocked so many of these out of memory. I pretend they're not Tim Burton because to me, Tim Burton has only made like 3 or 4 movies, and that's Edward Scissorhands and Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay, he didn't make that, but
I mean, you know what I mean, though. Like,
I know what you mean.
It falls into that. And honestly, Frankenweenie doesn't even register on my radar, even though it's legitimately an incredibly good movie, visually, story-wise, everything. It's a nice, tight movie. For some reason, it doesn't even hit my radar, although it probably should be in like the top 3 or 5.
Yeah, I think one thing, because when this came out, it was kind of like one of those picture duo things, and I'll check the date. This one came out in October in the States, October 2012. There's Paranorman, which everyone I talk to that has seen both of these movies say they prefer Paranorman.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen them both, and just you saying that Paranorman wins by a landslide.
Same here. Yes, it is a duo. So I never saw Frankenweenie because I was like, I can't watch Frankenweenie unless I've seen Paranorman. But now we have this podcast, so now I've seen Frankenweenie and not Paranorman.
Honestly, to say that Paranorman is better than Frankenweenie does not take away from Frankenweenie. I think part of the issue with Frankenweenie is that, and I'm just saying it's as much as I can because it's fun to say, that it's in black and white, not to its detriment, but it does make it feel more like a seasonal Halloween movie that you'd only really watch during October or something. But in that case, most people, unless you've got kids you're catering to, would probably just end up watching Jason or Freddy or, any other actual horror scary movie. So I think it kind of put itself in a corner, whereas Paranorman does have more of an evergreen feel to it. Maybe you watch it during October, but you can come and watch it at any point of the year. But Frankenweenie just, I don't know, it sort of shoehorned itself in a weird way.
Yeah. It was, interestingly, though, the only black and white movie to be put into IMAX. I think that still stands.
I want to say that there's color at least one point in the movie.
I mean, there's stuff like Oppenheimer, right, where some of the movies in black and white, but that's color and black and white. Here, what color element? Do we get color elements at all?
I didn't make a note. I want to say that we saw one, but I might just be making that up in my mind right now.
Because when you're saying that, I'm like, I remember that, and I'm like, no, wait, no, I'm remembering Schindler's List.
You know what? Though with the Mandela effect, we're allowed to just make things up and then just claim that the world changed around us. So let's just say that there was color, and if anyone goes through and they rewatch it and they're adding in the comments like you're wrong because Mandela effect.
I think I have it for you. This might be here's a specific example. When we see Christopher Lee on TV as Dracula, he's in color.
Is he? That's not where my mind was going. But
okay, that's where my mind went. Probably because as you were saying that, my eyes were going over Christopher Lee's technically in the film because of that. So,
well, see, and the fact that you brought that up, that the Hammer video, right? Like a Hammer horror.
Yeah.
That this movie is so meta. In addition to that particular example where we see these cartoon figures watching real action movie inside of their house, but they're also the kid Victor, he's making these stop motion and homemade video things, which is again I love this meta concept of that inside the movie they're making another movie, and inside of stop motion he's also making his own version of stop motion.
Yeah. Did you do stop motion as a kid?
I tried. I was really bad at it, but I absolutely tried doing it. The problem was that I didn't have the right equipment. We had like an old camcorder, like a digital camcorder, one of the first ones. So you'd hit record and then you would try and like hit record again to stop it really fast, but then you don't have a consistent frame rate. It's not the same as being able to take every individual photo and then stitch them together. My tiny brain hadn't put those two together yet. So I watched my stop motion, which was really like a 2 to 5 second clip of video followed by another 2 to 5 second clip. So it took a while to see anything move.
My friend across the street was the heavy mover on this, but I'd go around and I was at least associate to making. We made Gumby Impaled, where we tried to make it was a really crappy looking Gumby made by 12-year-olds, and then we would just have horrible violent things happen and lots of red clay. Yeah, and I think there's a clip on YouTube. I'll see if I can find that for folks if you're interested.
Patreon only. That sounds like Patreon only content. Yeah.
Well, I think it's already on YouTube, but yeah. So anyway, that I do find that very appealing. This one is CG though.
This was CG, although it has that same style of like a claymation stop motion look to it.
Yeah, it definitely has that look. That's why I was like starting to say it. Like, I know this is through CG, but question mark, so.
It's done well enough that they get a pass, even if it's pure CG.
It's certainly not A Bug's Life, which had us our eyes screaming in terror, basically. So maybe that's kind of why I'm saying, oh, is this the only good Tim Burton movie? Because I'm like, hey, it actually looked good and it felt analog, even though it wasn't. I guess
I have a more definitive statement. This is the best Tim Burton movie that you probably forgot about.
Okay, there we go. Let's go with that, because anything he made in the 2010s has been forgotten. So, Alice in Wonderland hasn't been forgotten, but it should be, I think.
Yeah, I think what it is that we're not mad at Tim Burton. We're just disappointed because he does things that shouldn't be done. And when it's to things that were already done very well, like I appreciate his unique perspective and everything. And I guess that's fitting. Like the story of how Frankenweenie came to be is very fitting because his very first version of Frankenweenie, I guess, got him fired from Disney or fired from.
Yeah, but they still put it on VHS and stuff. 1984. Up to that point, I guess he'd been just like keeping all the weird crap to himself, which again, very meta. That's kind of what's going on in this movie to a certain extent. He makes it gets released, at film festivals and then on VHS. But yeah, I guess it's just like, we don't like this, get out, Well,
it was too scary. The general consensus was like, corporate wise, this was not the type of theme or tone that they were trying to pursue. And again, sunken cost fallacy. I guess maybe that's why they turned it out. But it was also like, we don't like this, and they parted ways. And I'm sure it was not as amicable as all the corporate lingo speak is, but they bring him back into the fold eventually, because here we've got Frankenweenie remade. But it's just ironic that this movie, the first version of it, got him literally fired from Disney.
Okay, yes, what you said seems accurate, but then Paul Rubin sees Frankenweenie and hires him to do Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So Disney very quickly regrets it because that's a highly successful movie, followed by Beetlejuice, followed by friggin' Batman, right? So they were definitely like, that was stupid of us, I mean, maybe
they were right, because if the complaint was that the tone wasn't what they were chasing, Disney definitely does. You don't see the tone of Frankenweenie in many other Disney movies. I think maybe like one or two others so far. You could maybe stretch Meet the Robinsons. I would say Meet the Robinsons has an equal amount of weird, surreal, creepy factor, but it's not Tim Burton levels.
Yeah, well, they had to get a different director, of course, but like you're saying, Nightmare Before Christmas was like the perfect, like getting him back in the fold, where he actually not, it's more like, you could borrow my aesthetics and I'll show up in the studio like once a week or month, and but that did meld it. I mean, they're still rocking that. I mean, how much merch gets sold on Nightmare Before Christmas, and of course there's the Haunted Mansion overlay, still a real big deal. Whereas Frankenweenie, like you said, you don't find Frankenweenie merch. There's nothing in the theme parks about Frankenweenie. We've mostly forgotten Frankenweenie exists.
Which shouldn't be the case, but here we are anyways. But I would definitely add it to the list, especially for your Halloween playlist. This is a really good one. to binge right next to Paranorman. Like, don't watch Paranorman instead of Frankenweenie. Just watch both of them.
That's the thing. You can watch this after Paranorman. Again, I haven't seen Paranorman. I need to watch it. I've had 20 people tell me this, so I assume it's correct.
And since we're in that vein, this is not an animated movie, but I feel like if you like Paranorman and you like Frankenweenie, there's also a movie called Fido that I highly recommend if you haven't seen this one. And I think it also has a black and white aesthetic, but it's about where I think like Pleasantville style 1950s, 60s families all get zombies as dogs or like kind of assistants for their kids. So this kid has a pet zombie and he calls him Fido.
Okay, that's fun. And I remember I saw Monster House on a plane once, and I remember liking that as far as that is animated. So as far as, weird, darkish stuff go. And this is properly dark for Disney because, I am thinking, the basic plot is he's got this dog he loves. He's in the weird science stuff because he's a Frankenstein, right? Dog dies, grave digs dog, resurrects dog. That's pretty weird. Digging up your pets is weird.
Yeah, the dog dies 15 minutes into the movie, and I want to say that this was an insider joke that came out, and don't judge me, in the show Entourage. But there was this whole thing in Entourage, and I think I've got this right. Maybe you can correct me if you've heard this elsewhere. But they're editing these 2 or 3 different endings of a movie, and one of the guys says, like, there's this unwritten rule in Hollywood that you're not allowed to kill dogs in movies unless you want the audience to hate your movie, and that anytime they would test these different endings, the dog always has to survive. Even if all the humans die, the dog has to survive. Otherwise, the audience absolutely hates it. And here we have a Disney animated movie, Frankenweenie, and the dog that you love dies in the first 15 minutes. So it kind of violates that rule immediately. Granted, they do bring him back to life, but
he is a weird zombie. Well, I guess Frankenstein. Is Frankenstein a zombie technically? Kind of. Voodoo curse versus a scientific lightning.
That's actually a great question. I don't know. I think that part of being a zombie, though, is that you have to consume some sort of human flesh or energy or something. And Frankenstein derives his energy from lightning only, right? Frankenstein does not have a diet.
Yeah. How much of a battery charge does that? Well, actually, they get into that, don't they? Which in this, so how much of a battery charge does that get you is a plot point, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I really like this because if it's not obvious from the very beginning, but we're clearly watching a young Victor Frankenstein grow up, but he's growing up in the 1950s, 1960s America. So you've got a Pleasantville origin story for Victor Frankenstein. And I also, since this is Occult Disney, I have to mention that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, some of the interpretations I've read was that it was actually talking about the Bavarian Illuminati because this all happens in Ingolstadt around the exact same time. And there's evidence that Mary Shelley was familiar with the Bavarian Illuminati.
So, yeah, makes sense. How do you feel about the claim that it is the first science fiction novel?
I don't feel like I'm enough of an expert on that. I think I could debate that because I've heard of many older forms of science fiction novels. There was, man, I wish I wish I knew you were going to ask this in advance because I went on a deep rabbit hole on the Occult Book Club podcast with Juan Ayala, where we were trying to find like the oldest science fiction novel, and this becomes a heavily debated topic. And I'm sure rooms of very small and friendless people, but it goes back pretty deep actually, because a lot of the time science fiction, all it really has to include is you traveling to another planet. And if you've got a story where you travel to another planet and it's not, Greek mythology, then technically that goes under the range of science fiction.
I was going to say, you could certainly come up with an interpretation of the Epic of Gilgamesh having science fiction elements if you wanted to.
That one's a little bit of a stretch, but sometimes like the science fiction ones, they also have sorts of like futuristic vehicles or methods of transport or just straight up descriptions of technology in ways that we didn't have words for yet. So that's where it kind of gets misconstrued a little bit.
Yeah, twirling wheel of fire in the sky. It could be a helicopter,
I do. I do think that this one too is really interesting because we have this child that is reanimating his dead dog, and everyone seems to be offended at this, or at least know that this is some sort of an aberration of nature, or an abomination of nature. Although they clearly live in this weird Halloween world, right? Where things are already. You've got the Igor. You've got this mind. You've got Mr. Whiskers, who's this telepathic cat, which is my favorite character in the entire thing. So it was weird that other people were reacting to Sparky in this way, which if we haven't mentioned already, of course, the dog's name is Sparky and he becomes, Frankenweenie.
I mean, Victor Frankenstein was already doing experiments and already making lots of sparks. So it didn't make sense, thinks about sparks a lot. So dog Sparky. Didn't know he was going to resurrect his dog. I don't know. Can we assume he knew he was going to eventually? Dogs don't live that long.
Right. Well, and I guess leading to another point, I think this is the first Disney movie in which a dog dies by getting hit by a car, which is a very realistic way of. The only other realistic death I can think of would be Bambi's mom getting shot by a hunter, right?
Off screen.
Off screen. And this one, technically it happens off screen, but only by about an inch. And we see Victor seeing his dog being, dead. And I don't think we've ever seen that in a Disney movie where you actually see the reaction of the child witnessing his friend or parents dead in front of him. So again, I almost felt like they took everything that Disney originally hated about the original Frankenweenie and they just kind of doubled down a little bit. I wonder if there was a deleted scene where we actually see a little bit of gore here, like a little bit of puppy blood gets on his face or something.
Puppy blood. That sounds like a really terrible death metal band.
It's a skinny puppy cover band, but they do like a Marilyn Manson thing, I'm sure.
Or maybe it's one of those kawaii death metal bands we have in Japan, where it's like the girls in skirts and stuff playing death metal. Have you seen like baby metal? That's somewhat popular in the States.
Well, I guess speaking of, did you notice the Goodbye Kitty gravestone?
I guess no. What about it?
So when Victor goes to dig up his dog for the first time, because of course he's in a pet cemetery, right next to him as he's shoveling the dirt out, there's a gravestone that says "Goodbye Kitty" on it instead of "Hello Kitty."
Oh, okay. So in Japan, people start calling her Kitty-chan, so you're used to just hearing Kitty-chan instead. So the joke didn't resonate as much because I'm not used to hearing people actually say "Hello Kitty" anymore.
There is also a turtle that explodes, which was kind of interesting, named Shelly, which is another clever name for a turtle. And so we have two different pets dying in front of their owners in a Disney movie.
And a frog dissection.
And a frog vivisection. So I feel like when it comes to mutilating animals, Disney's never going to match this energy again. Like if your thing is seeing kids see their pets being dismembered, and you like Disney movies, if you're in that weird little niche, like this is the movie to watch.
Maybe that's where partly this goes, like you were saying, like the whole society already seems a little bit Halloween-y. There's a little alliteration there, because. He's what, in the 6th grade, 5th grade? What did you track him? Do they say? I mean, he's in elementary.
I would say elementary-ish, yeah.
Yeah, you don't dissect frogs in elementary school. I did that in the 9th grade. Did you dissect a frog?
I did, but it was a formaldehyde frog. Like it had been dead for a long time, and it was kind of like shriveled. And I was on the impression from all the cartoons I had watched growing up that they just give you a live frog and you kill it on the spot and split it open. I wonder if that was ever the case.
No, I never had that. I think they make you do it with a chicken, right? Go try the chicken's head off right now. Do it.
I grew up on a farm. I've seen that done. Our farm did not have animals. It was technically a farm, but it wasn't, we weren't farmers or anything. But the people in the area that we grew up in was, they were definitely butchering their own chickens. And I mean, I've seen faces of death, man.
Here, of course, they can't get Vincent Price because he's dead. which obviously would be the perfect casting for Frankenweenie. They get Martin Landau. That's good enough.
As Vincent Price? I mean, no.
I'm just like, that's the role you would have put Vincent Price in if he hadn't been dead for 20 years when they made this, right? He's the teacher, is it? What's the teacher's name? Dun, 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 dun. Oh, God. Now that I'm looking at it, it's worse.
Ruskruski.
Okay, I don't feel bad for not remembering that. Okay.
Is that a Polish joke? Okay. Yeah, he's
Maybe.
a science teacher, but it also seems like he's just the teacher, maybe. I don't know. Because if it's really like a small town, a small isolated town, it could explain that maybe they've just got all the kids together, like, classic pre-Rockefeller education style. And this does seem like outside the Rockefeller system.
Let's see. I'm just sitting here looking at, I'm looking at the other names here.
And by the way, also, I think 3 pets die on screen, because I remember too that Mr. Whiskers gets impaled.
Oh, okay. There we go. Lots of pet. Well, I guess you can see where in 1984 Disney was a bit skittish about. I don't remember if we get that much in the 24-minute version, but
another band name inspired by this episode: Pet Death.
Ooh,
Puppy
there
Blood
you go.
And Pet Death. I feel like we're on a roll here.
Yeah. They tour together, right? Yeah, it looks like the guy who did the Victor Frankenstein voice, his career hasn't really sparked up. He's working, good for him, but nothing that's worth shouting out. Just TV shows.
I mean, again, despite it being a good movie, this is the movie that you forget. So someone's like, Frankenweenie, why does it sound so familiar? And if that's the biggest thing on your resume, you're kind of like, oh man, why? Out of all the Tim Burton movies, like, maybe I should have been in Alice in Wonderland or the Willy Wonka remake. At least people remember that one.
They went full on SCTV for his parents, Catherine O'Hara's mom, Martin Short as Edward Frankenstein. Both doing multiple voices. He's also Martin Short's the mayor. He's a classmate. Catherine O'Hara's weird girl, which I guess the Mr. Whiskers girl. So yeah, they were letting them SCTV. That's kind of cool. Winona Ryder gets to show up. This is kind of her, I guess, a wilderness era, because she doesn't really pop up again until it's Stranger Things.
Yeah, this is still working through her shoplifting sort of phase, I guess.
I feel like it's Alien Resurrection to Stranger Things. Am I missing something in the middle? I'm missing Frankenweenie, but she doesn't have a big role here.
You're missing the Adam Sandler movie where she's the love interest.
I don't think I've ever seen that. That's why. Okay.
It's actually not a bad one, but I also can't remember the name of it, so maybe it doesn't speak very highly of it.
Yeah, we're stuck in non-memorable movies.
It's Mr. Deeds. I believe it's Mr. Deeds, where he has Hawaiian Punch coming out of like the water fountains in his house.
I think I saw that in the theater like opening weekend and have forgotten about it. I've seen the old version since. I have not seen that one.
I can name more Adam Sandler movies than Tim Burton movies. What does that say? Is that more about me, or is that more about Tim Burton?
I think it's also about quantity, because Adam Sandler makes it like what? He still makes like 2 movies every year, and nobody makes comedies, and he's still making 2 comedies a year. You know
what though? I would still watch 3 of Adam Sandler's worst movies over the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie.
Oh, okay. I'm feeling that way about the Alice in Wonderland if we're keeping it Burton. So
either one. I'd rather watch your least favorite Adam Sandler movie.
I have to watch Jack and Jill in a month or 2 for my film podcast. I'll get back to you on Jack and Jill. So,
what was the one where he's the Israeli hairdresser?
I was about to say, I love that movie. You don't mess with the Zohan. I love. Wow, and watching that movie now would be so weird. I should watch Zohan.
Now is the time. That's what's going to heal the world, I think, is Zohan.
Because at the end, John Turturro's Palestinian and Adam Sandler's Israeli Defense Force guy, they come together.
Okay,
so beautiful.
I'm gonna figure out a way to work that into one of these shows.
Okay, call me up. I might just show up for that one. I love that
movie. You're totally invited.
I don't know why, but I saw that opening weekend at the theater for some reason with my dad and my wife. So kind of weird.
Also, I guess just to be topical, to prove that we're doing this in real time, but the movie Elio or Elio, I don't know which.
I just heard people riffing on that as a bit last night in the podcast. Elio, I believe, is what they kept saying. But hey, maybe he was pronouncing it wrong. Well, he said he saw the movie.
We'll just say Elio for the sake of conversation. I'm not going to turn that part into a bit. But The same way that we were talking, oh, technically Nightmare Before Elm Street's not really Tim Burton. Like it's Tim Burton in aesthetic in a way that it's recognizable, it's iconic. Like Andy Warhol didn't do all of his own paintings either, but you see it and you're like, that's an Andy Warhol. Well, Elio, it seems like some of the review, I haven't seen it yet, I plan to see it, but some of the reviews are basically saying that Elio is the moment that everyone gets Pixar fatigue, and specifically this like Luca style Pixar look where everyone's kind of waiting back like, come on guys, you got any other stylistic aesthetic that you can present? Because regardless of how good the story might be, the actual look to it is fading, and I don't know if there's such a thing yet as the Tim Burton claymation aesthetic fatigue, because it seems that even when we see like a Frankenweenie style, Corpse Bride style, any of the, even Coraline, which I realize is, I don't think that's Tim Burton either, but that particular style seems like it has a much longer shelf life than the Luca Pixar style.
Yeah. Luca is the one I'm thinking of, isn't it? Luca doesn't make that many movies though, right? We're talking about the other stop motion production house, right?
Correct. But I guess it's more of like the aesthetic in general, that it has such a specific look to it that just is not holding up as long as Pixar probably prefers.
Okay, so I'm trying to on the fly do a search, and somehow it's giving me snuff film wiki articles. I think I'm in the wrong rabbit hole.
You're on the
Kubo there. Kubo in the how many strings there? I just need to remember the name of the movies. Oh, Lycia, I could have said that too. Kubo, they made Lycia, the 2 strings. Okay, that 2016. I feel like that. Laika. That's why I'm saying it wrong. Okay, yeah. I feel like they haven't. Have I burnt out on them? I burnt out on Pixar like maybe 5 years ago, or maybe I just don't watch them because we do this podcast, and I'm going to end up watching them eventually.
That's kind of where I'm at too, where it's like I know I'm gonna see it anyways at some point, so there's no reason rushing it unless there's like a reason that we're like absolutely have to cover it on the spot.
Well, it says Leica did contract work on Corpse Bride, so they actually were involved with that. If you're trying to parse it, they were there.
I get that, tangential. I wonder though, at what point, if ever, do we get a Tim Burton Pixar movie where we're like the two aesthetics and styles kind of come together? And if I'm trying to nail down what makes Tim Burton style a little bit more timeless, maybe it is the leaning into the stop motion aesthetics. As opposed to like leaning into making everything look clean.
Yeah. Well, they started off with Toy Story, so even now everything kind of looks like a toy, right? Also, they want to sell everything in the movie with toys. Where at least on this one, you could make like scary toys, right? Because it's a Tim Burton toy. Of course, it looks a little weird, and it's like got like scrapes and scratches and stuff on it.
Yeah, I wonder how Tim Burton Nightmare Before Christmas merch sells compared to Toy Story merch.
I would guess Toy Story still blasting out of the water because you don't have all the toddlers, getting Toy Story stuff all the time, or getting Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. I mean, I'm sure some parents like to get, Jack Skellington for their kid because they think it's cool. But
fair point. And I guess with the Disney weaponizing nostalgia, they can make sure that you never grow out of obsessing about Buzz Lightyear or whatever, no matter how many horrible movies they put out about him. Another note I had in here was I absolutely love the treatment of sea monkeys in this movie. They make them act like gremlins from Gremlins 2 when they take over the movie theater. It almost feels like that was a inspiration for how the sea monkeys operate here, where you get a little bit of water on them, which ironically is the only way you can bring a sea monkey to life.
Well, if Tim Burton is your personal Jesus, I guess that makes Joe Dante your John the Baptist.
I guess. And Masonically, we get 2 different Johns. So, But yeah, they have the sea monkeys. They're drinking beer, they're eating popcorn, and they're exploding. Like all 3 of those things are things that gremlins do at night.
Yeah. Hey, I'd make some Gremlins references if I could, why not? I was also, I'd recently seen E.T. again. So as he's trying to hide Sparky, I'm definitely getting, thinking of the middle third of E.T. where they're kind of trying to hide their alien,
Another observation I had on this was that technically we see his dog die twice. That's definitely a first, and I'm going to say only time in a Disney animated movie that a dog dies twice. But also they show the dead body or the lifeless body the second time, and then he brings the dog back to life. And I wonder, is there a rule that if the dog already died off screen, you're allowed to kill him on screen the second time? Does that break some sort of moral, like time continuum law in the Disney universe?
It's because he's already a horror creature. So I guess it's like how Goofy can have like, fatal accidents and it's really funny, but Mickey Mouse doesn't have fatal accidents.
But this one's not funny, man. This one, everyone's sad. They see that the dog is dead in front of them. They're all staring at this lifeless, dead dog body, and you're kind of feeling bummed out for this kid, even though you realize clearly he could just bring him back to life. So then I was also wondering, how many times can Frankenweenie die? Is there a magical number that after he dies, the 9th time, you can't bring him back again? Or does he just live forever? Like, is this dog going to be alive as long as Victor wants him to be alive?
Does he keep going to the afterlife and just getting yanked out over and over again? How does that work? Do dogs have souls?
Do all dogs go to heaven?
Well, Frankenweenie doesn't. He keeps getting dragged back into a zombie body.
There's another like a Adam Sandler Little Nicky reference in here. I'll just say the words and hopefully someone connects it.
Okay, there we go. Another one I haven't seen. There's a Sandler I don't think I can rewatch. I can't handle that voice. I am one of those people that I cannot handle the Little Nicky voice or the Waterboy voice. I can't handle them.
I get it. Also, I mean, I would throw Billy Madison in there too. That might be sacrilege. A lot of people love Billy Madison. It's one of the hardest rewatches, though. It just reminds me of what I thought was funny at 12.
Yeah. Of course, Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore 2 is coming out soon. Apparently, we'll see if that's worth watching.
Happy Gilmore absolutely holds up.
God, yeah, that's a great
part of that movie that doesn't hold up for me.
Wedding Singer holds up pretty well. Yeah. So has Adam Sandler ever done a Tim Burton movie? I don't think so. Man,
if you had to erase all movies from history, would you get rid of all Adam Sandler or all Tim Burton?
Well, I can get my Batman from a different director, so we can get rid of that from the Burtons. I like Beetlejuice. I think I would keep the Sandlers because that's more like you throw it on late at night when you want to half watch something, Like they're more useful.
Yeah, okay, I'll see that too. I also like the whole premise behind it is just that like a bunch of friends get to go on vacation and get paid for it.
Exactly. You got to appreciate that. I mean, hey, I haven't actually seen an Adam Sandler film in like 10 years, but I bet if I went and watched a few, I'd probably, have like a not bad time.
I don't know. It's hard to imagine a world without a Beetlejuice. I can imagine a world without Adam Sandler movies growing up. Like, I guess Happy Gilmore will be the closest one. In terms of impact and age and demographic and all that. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I would rather keep Adam Sandler than Tim Burton. No disrespect to Mr. Burton.
Oh, we do lose 2 great Keaton performances. Well, okay, Batman's not great in, he's okay in, but it aged well.
The first movie that I think that I heard someone say the S word. That stands for, I'm not even going to say it out loud. This is a children's show. But right. Yeah, I remember super early age. And I was like, oh my God, did this adult just show me a movie where they're saying bad words? And of course, it didn't matter that people get murdered and poisoned in that movie and disfigured from acid.
I do remember Batman. I was 10 years old, so I was just the right age for that to be my first real event movie that I was like in on, right? First movie I heard the S word in. I remember. The Bad Babysitters, I guess. We were at somebody's house with their kids, and we were at a pool, and then we went inside and watched National Lampoon's European Vacation. I was like 5 years old, and that's the first time I heard.
That movie's got a lot of firsts.
Yes, it has several. Yeah. So National Lampoon's European Vacation. So, do you think that's a good movie?
Absolutely.
Okay, just checking because a lot of people don't like that one so much, right? And including the people who made it. And I was like, do I like it just because it's the first movie I heard dirty words and saw boobies in and stuff, right?
No, you know what though? I think it's the same aspect. And again, for like filmophiles, they might not want to even hear this, but it does seem that even a crappy movie from like the 90s to 2000s sometimes is as good or better than a decent movie from like the man. I feel like I'm just gonna earn enemies by saying this, but like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, it's a good movie. Like objectively, it's a good movie, good acting, great storyline, everything. But nothing really happens, and even the things that do happen, they're not spectacles in the way that my 1980s, 1990s MK Ultra brain was designed. Like I like spectacle, so I think modern versions just end up looking better. So, for example, I'm almost positive that I saw Christmas Vacation followed by Vegas Vacation first, and then I saw European Vacation. And to me, European Vacation can't hold a candle to either of those, but it's still objectively a good and fun movie. Like it's hilarious. But I mean, if we're going vacation style, I would almost say Vegas. Vegas is clearly the winner.
Interesting. Most people put that at the bottom of the pile. I remember Ethan Embry. I remember as Rusty in that one is just fantastic. I do remember that.
Papa Giorgio made as much of an impact on my life as any other fictional character I can think of.
Okay, you're gonna make me go rewatch Vegas. I like the 2016 one where it's Christina Applegate and what's his name?
Absolutely, no, that one's great too. That I love that one. The way that they rag on the sun the entire time, I think it's hilarious.
Swimming in poo, that's sewage. That's fun. I like that movie. Yeah. Okay, so plus the vacation movies. Don't want to have dinner with Chevy Chase from what I hear. Don't want him in my kitchen, but I'll watch his movies.
Yeah, Chevy Chase or Tim Burton.
Is Tim Burton supposed to be that horrible to be in a room with?
No, I'm saying movie-wise. You get rid of all Tim Burton movies or you get rid of all Chevy Chase movies?
Burton again. I'm not losing Fletcher my vacations.
Right? Okay. Now we have to eventually find out who do we kill? Who's the FMK version of this where Tim Burton survives at the end?
Here's the problem. You're giving me these like comedy things where you can just kind of like chill out in, where Burton doesn't usually make movies you can just go and chill out in. They're a little, they're weird, right? Hell, Pee-wee's Big Adventure is probably the closest, and it's still weird, and you still have to deal with a large margin stuff.
I guess part of this though is that Tim Burton owns this tiny little niche, right? Like he owns this aesthetic and this feel and this tone that it's hard. Like who else would you compare to Tim Burton in this way? If you were to make an equal comparison of like, keep all the Tim Burton movies or keep all of these movies, I can't really think of another comparable. Even Paranorman doesn't really fit into this because they don't have a version of it. The only other thing I can think of would be like an M. Night Shyamalan, and not that Tim Burton and M. Night Shyamalan are the same, but in that their aesthetic and their tone is so specific to them that it's hard to find comparable versions.
Okay, I've had this feeling since like the early 90s. So 30 years down the line, maybe this does sound insane, but I always thought of David Lynch as being a way artier Tim Burton. Even though David Lynch started making movies first. But, growing up in the 80s, I saw like 5 Tim Burton movies and then started seeing David Lynch movies, right? Like Eraserhead? I mean, I can kind of see
that. Although I feel like David Lynch is MK Ultraing you for his own entertainment. Tim Burton's doing it for Disney.
Well, in certain movies, other times, who's he doing it for in Mars Attacks?
I assume the aliens.
Oh, okay, there we go. Trying to see if I can remember their voices. Another movie I need to rewatch. So I can see. Is it Pierce Brosnan on a tiny dog body? Yeah, that's some good stuff. I do like Burton films, but again, am I getting rid of all of David Lynch's movies or Tim Burton's? Tim Burton's out again,
I know. Again, I feel like we need to resolve this. We need to find someone that
Shyamalan. Shyamalan's gone before Burton. That's for sure. I haven't seen any Shyamalan movies since The Village, so very easy for me to throw Shyamalan out the window.
If we remove Pee-wee and Beetlejuice if we can take 2 movies out of each one, if you remove Beetlejuice and Pee-wee, and maybe even Beetlejuice, but I guess you don't get the second one if you don't have the first one. With those 2 movies taken out, I feel like Shyamalan wins And you can almost take out any other two Shyamalan movies, and they're interchangeable in terms of their hate.
Yeah, but I have a very big. I saw all the movies up to The Village. I didn't even hate The Village like everyone else did. I just never watched one after that. I have The Visit somewhere in my Blu-ray thing here. I could watch The Visit, I guess. He directed that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have maybe just the worst taste in movies, but I legitimately enjoy every M. Night Shyamalan movie I've seen, I think, unironically. Even the ones that everyone seems to universally hate. Even the freaking one that takes place entirely in an elevator. I think it's called Devil.
I think people actually like that one. Okay, I think that one has a not terrible reputation.
Although he did have I think his very first movie was like a Christian movie, and it didn't have.
Yeah, and you couldn't even find it. Yeah, you couldn't even find it, I think, for a long time. I'm not sure if you can find it now, but yeah. Sixth Sense was not his first movie.
I think
it might be his third.
The solution here is that we need an M. Night Shyamalan, Tim Burton Pixar movie.
Okay, yeah, sure. I could do that. But there is something about Burton that's, except for Beetlejuice and Pee-wee, that his movies always feel kind of packaged. I mean, like he's supposed to be edgy, but he was very much like, I guess he understood I can't do stuff on this level of spectacle without, kowtowing to the company,
I actually appreciate that. I mean, that seems like a little bit of a curse, though, right? If you are so good at what you do, and if your aesthetic is like this creepy counterculture thing, but you're so damn good at it that everything looks so high, pristine, polished quality, then it sort of works against the aesthetic and the tone that you're going for. But I mean, again, like Tim Burton just does it so well in his own right. And I guess he does have Vincent Price in Edward Scissorhands, right? So
yeah. Again, that's where David Lynch is doing it while being a little more uncompromising. It seems. I'm sure. He's in his movies, it's clear he was playing the game. He was living in L.A. Again, This Is the Girl is one of the deepest Hollywood scenes ever. So he knew it, but he also didn't get to make many movies in the 21st century, where Tim Burton has gotten to make like 15, right? So.
Yeah, Tim Burton's the director you can bring home to your parents more so than David Lynch, I think.
Yeah. David Lynch you have to go to his weird compound and he, drink coffee with him and listen to electricity in the air.
Yeah, and then he's just complaining that he doesn't have like 40 hours to make dinner or whatever.
40 hours to make dinner, man. You can make some good dinner with that. Okay, I can get it. If I could cook, which I can't.
I guess. I mean, some of my favorite David Lynch footage is just him complaining between takes on how they don't have enough budget or time to shoot all these just random scenes where he just wants to shoot a bunch of B-roll and figure it out later. And I could just tell that everyone in that production crew is probably frustrated as hell, because it probably seems that the target is just constantly moving. Whereas Tim Burton movies, it does seem like they're formulaic in that, I guess if I'm watching a Tim Burton movie, I feel like I'm expecting a beginning, middle, and end. If I'm watching a David Lynch movie, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and confusion if you're expecting beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, I think the final episode of Twin Peaks: The Return is one of the better examples. I only watched Twin Peaks: The Return like several months ago before he died. Actually, I had a David Lynch watch-a-thon in like December, and then he dies right after I watched it. I did it backwards, right? I did the tribute, then he died. Anyway, the last episode of Twin Peaks: The Return, I watched it. I was like, I hated it. And then the next day I was like, oh. And now I love it. I didn't rewatch it. I thought about it, and then I was like, okay.
I think you're also supposed to watch Firewalk with me right after that too, right? For the full experience.
Or before. Watch Firewalk with me like anywhere, to be honest. I think I watched it before The Return. I think I did Firewalk and then I did The Return. So,
yeah, what's her? I'm gonna out myself. Laura Palmer. That's the name, right? Laura Palmer.
Yes.
So, spoiler alert, but it's the audience, right?
The audience killed Laura Palmer.
Laura Palmer. Okay, I guess everyone knows that now.
Yeah, everyone knows that now. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yes, I am very much on the I like the extra abstraction. I like the dots that don't connect. Obviously, I am a bigger Lynch fan than a Burton fan by far.
I do have to say that I absolutely love Mr. Whiskers and that creepy girl that just whispers weird things out into the open. Like, that's where they buried the miners. And I was man, in a context of an intentionally creepy Disney movie, what kind of miners are we talking about here?
Spell it, please.
Yeah,
in the subtitles.
Spell it, Mr. Whiskers, that later gets impaled on screen.
Yeah, Mr. Whiskers got freaky. Okay, I wrote that's more traumatic than Sparky dying. So, is that like were they going Bride of Frankenstein at that point? Is that what's supposed to be happening?
Well, Bride of Frankenstein is at the end with the poodle. Like, it's an actual Bride of Frankenstein sort of dog. The Mr. Whiskers actually turns into more of a, I guess, like Wuhan experiment, because it combines with a bat and turns into like a weird vampire Mr. Whiskers.
That was fun, though. Mr. Whiskers just screws everything up, of course. Has a more hardcore death.
I wish
Mr. Whiskers also has like multiple deaths, right?
I wish there were Mr. Whiskers merch in Disney parks, but there's not.
That's what they wanted. This movie just didn't take. I mean, I haven't done my box office thing yet, have I? Let's see how successful it was or wasn't. Okay, successful. Maybe it just broke even. 39 budget, 81 box office. I think they were expecting like 250 on the box office or something, you know? They're like, animated Tim Burton, that's going to be gangbusters. And maybe 200. Take 50 off because it is in black and white, you know?
I was about to say that. Yeah, the black and the white thing, I can guarantee you that it turns people off, especially when it's done well. I mean, it's done well, but yeah, this is not going to be the same movie that's going to keep the little kids' eyes glued to the TV set the same way.
Yeah, critics were fine with it. Did not get particularly bad reviews. I mean, like 2.5 stars seem to be the worst reviews, mostly. I mean, obviously there's always a hater out there, but yeah, I'm not finding much on. It must be partly the black and white thing.
But again, I really do feel that one of the main limitations of this movie is that it feels like an October Halloween movie. Even Nightmare Before Christmas was very smart about the name and the marketing and the premise. It literally has the word Christmas in the name. And even though it's mostly like a Halloween aesthetic, you are watching it from Halloween through Christmas. You now have it for at least a quarter of the year, and therefore it becomes timeless. And now people watch it at all times during the year. Frankenweenie, I just don't think you're watching Frankenweenie during December. They targeted
the release correctly, though. October 5th release, so you know they put in. It's not like some of those Harry Potter sequels where you're sitting in the theater in July and you're like, why is it Christmas? Answer, it got moved on the schedule, but
well, I mean, Hogwarts operates on a different time zone too, I believe.
Oh, right, different time zone. If they're currently having Halloween in Botswana as we do this podcast in June. First country I thought of. Interesting. Okay. All the cool kids in this town. Grave Rob, like you said, it's a little bit of a Halloween-y town. Did you have any holes you wanted to punch through on this one? You said you were a little
not really. I mean, usually, yeah, I find all sorts of plot holes and things that don't really make sense. Or like this movie, I mean, it is a cult. It's basically about kids dabbling in necromancy, and everything is based off of actual horror movies. They have the homage to Hammer horror movie where they're showing. I believe the movie is Horror of Dracula on TV. And yes. I grew up watching all the classic Hammer movies. So I don't know. I have nothing but love for this movie. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, why is it so dang forgettable?
Yeah. Just scheduling wise, we had to bump this one back a few weeks, once because of me, once because of you. But yeah, it's like, so I didn't watch it last night again. So I'm sitting here trying to how much do I remember? It's fading from memory. But I will remember what Frankenweenie looks like. He has that design's going to stick in my head, Mr. Whiskers and the girl. I guess there are designs here that stick. Like you said, I don't know.
Let's talk again in a year and see how much of those aesthetics you remember. Paranorman, I probably haven't seen for the better half of a decade, and I still know exactly what he looks like.
Yeah. I'm just doing a little experiment here. I'm looking at past episodes. I want to see how much I remember of some of our older Disney movies. I'll get back to that in a minute. But
I feel like I can remember a good majority of them.
I can't do. How much do I remember about the No-Mobile? I mean, some. I remember the room with everything kind of chonking at you. That's what I remember the most.
No-Mobile, I think, is a little bit different though, because it's all live action, it's all real actors and stuff, and I mean, reality blends in. When we're talking about animated, CG, claymation, all these, they have such novel looks to them that they should embed themselves in your mind a little bit easier. Although maybe that doesn't hold up. Again, we were talking about Elio. So at a certain point, the novelty begins to wear off, and then they all just kind of blend together.
Yeah. I can't remember what happened in the Black Cauldron, but I can remember what the kid looks like, right?
Now, when I think of Black Cauldron, all I can think about are the deleted scenes, and those are now my favorite scenes, and the ones that are like the most vivid. And I realized that they didn't actually even make it to the screen.
How much do you remember about Teacher's Pet?
Quite a lot, just because that one sent me down a weird rabbit hole of transhumanism in Florida.
Okay. You know, I personally don't remember much of that one. If we're talking about ones that seem forgettable.
Recess. I mean, if we're talking about, I
find that more memorable. I remember Recess pretty well. That one stuck in my brain for whatever reason. Let's see. Okay, now I'm going to look at the Disney Renaissance. It's pretty memorable stuff. This does have something about it. Maybe it's like black and white, like live action, where a little bit more just like live action black and white animation somehow seems slightly less appealing than live action. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I think so. I don't know what it is other than that. So it's the best we've got to go on. Like even Pleasantville, like I remember large portions of Pleasantville, which was also a black and white movie done for the same reason that this one's black and white.
I mean, I've seen Citizen Kane. Now, if I could play Citizen Kane in my head, it's not a black and white thing in general. I guess it's because black and white animation. What do I think of? Early Mickey Mouse cartoons and the insane Betty Boop ones. Yeah, and the insane Betty Boop ones with like Louis Armstrong and Cab Calloway and stuff. That's why those are great, by the way, if you want some good black and white. But
dude, that's the original Snow White, I believe.
You are correct. Yes, Betty Boop is Snow White. Yes, you're correct. But that's like black and white animation. Otherwise, if it's animation, pops and color in my eye, you know?
And I think that's because even Nightmare Before Christmas, I wonder how well that movie would have done if it were strictly in black and white.
I guess it's like if I give you a black and white photo, it might be like, this is great art. Whereas if I give you a drawing I just made, even if it's a really good cartoony drawing, it's like you just gave me a cartoony pencil drawing, you know? Doesn't seem as impressive. I don't know. Maybe I'm probably offending somebody out there who's very good at drawing.
At some point, we're going to figure out which director survives, or sorry, which one dies next to Tim Burton.
It's got to be contemporaries, making movies at the same time.
I believe so, and it probably even has to be within the same genre, although I just don't know who else to pair up with him in that way.
Okay, I mentioned Joe Dante before, but I'm keeping Joe Dante over Tim Burton too. So.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, who doesn't survive next to him?
Yeah.
Despite him having some phenomenal movies. That's what makes it so weird.
Yeah, I guess he feels... It's the dissonance of him. He feels corporate and like anti-corporate at the same time, and it's a hard circle to square, you know.
He's like a Trent Reznor,
right? And Trent Reznor at least is like, well, he makes all those cool soundtracks now, so he's kind of a guy that's a little artistic out. I don't think anyone talks smack about the soundtracks, right? I like
and Trent Reznor also. If you've ever seen some of his, I can't remember if they were like on all albums, but some of the albums had like a hidden track, and then if you open that track in a spectrogram, it would actually show like pictures. I think one of them was like a cat or something.
Ooh, I have a really weird Nine Inch Nails thing. I listened to Pretty Hate Machine and Broken like a ton in the early 90s. And then for some reason, Downward Spiral did not appeal to me, and I didn't really listen to them for 20 years. So I did not listen to Downward Spiral along with everyone else, despite having listened to the first two a ton. So kind of weird.
It's very hipstery.
Yeah, but it was I guess it just didn't appeal to me when it came out. I don't know if it was the mastering or what. It just I didn't seem to like that album much when it came out, whereas everyone else loved it. So
I think that was when he was beginning to get embraced by mainstream. Like Perfect Drug, I think, was Downward Spiral, or no, I might have that wrong.
I think that's right. I think it's because the first one's almost like, like electronic music, right? So that's very different. And then Broken is all like insane fast metal. So, and then that Downward Spiral is neither of those things. It is something different. So artistically, that's pretty cool. But it just was. Now I kind of like the album. It took a really long time to grow on me.
Okay, well, the Pixar Tim Burton movie is going to have Trent Reznor on the soundtrack. I think that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yes. Okay. David. Nope. Keeping David. Okay. What am I even talking about? I was like David Fincher. I was like, no, because Trent Reznor does most of the soundtracks now, right? And I was like, wait, no, that's not even like. There's no comparison there either. Yeah.
Let us know in the comments who
do that. I want to know.
Who does Tim Burton beat in this comparison? Who's the perfect Tim Burton analog? Because I can't even really think of enough to bring up right now.
Yeah, poor man's Tim Burton. Who is a poor man's Tim Burton? Hey, what if I just put that phrase into the machine?
Who is the poor man's Tim Burton? And we're gonna find out that we'd keep poor man's Tim Burton over the real Tim Burton.
Yeah, poor man's Tim Burton listed the terrible Tim Burton ripoff. I don't need a terrible Tim Burton ripoff. It's not. It's just telling me about him. It's not telling me about other people.
Well, okay, I've got a list for you, and I don't even know what this means, but Mick G, who directed We Are Marshall, Terminator Salvation, and This Means War.
Is that a fair comparison? McGee's made the Charlie's Angel is good. He made something else I actually do like, but I feel like that's definitely like a Z tier director, mainstream version. I mean, he called himself McG. That's those are almost my initials. He flipped.
Here's a close one. Here's a close one. Rob Zombie or Tim Burton?
Okay, I haven't watched most of Rob Zombie's films, so it's easy for me to say Tim Burton.
Okay.
But that's because I haven't watched. What have I seen of his? I've seen one or two, but I haven't seen the Monsters yet.
One of the many House of a Thousand Corpses. Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, McGee's later career just goes like straight down the crapper. There's like Charlie's Angels is the only one of his movies I'd like even want to watch. So that's in my book, that's not probably fair. Well, we were talking about European Vacation. Amy Heckerling, Tim Burton. With Amy Heckerling, you get Ridgemont High, you get European Vacation, you get Clueless, you get, if you want the Look Who's Talking movie, you get that.
Is it fair to compare Tim Burton and Henry Selick, or is that?
I feel like they're too entangled. I'm also bringing up Amy Heckerling because she kind of looks like a female Tim Burton sometimes, wearing black and kind of like, stringy hair.
All right, I feel like this is going to extend beyond this episode, but we are now officially on the search for someone that we can put head to head with Tim Burton, and Tim Burton wins because we want Tim Burton to win.
Yeah. Also, choosing Amy was a problem because she made a Vacation movie, and that Tim Burton already lost to The Vacation, so it's kind of like she's grandfathered in. I guess yes. Comment because we're stuck on that. I guess we're not gonna leave you with a resolution here.
It's very David Lynch of us.
It is very David Lynch of us. So anything else you want to throw off on Frankenweenie? I know you want to say the name again. Frankenweenie. Yeah, it's
Beetlejuice rules. If you say it 3 times. The only other thing, just random observation, but it also reminded me of the Radio Shack dog, which I know wasn't a weenie, but also this dog's not really a dachshund, right?
No, he's not.
When I think a wiener dog, I'm thinking a dachshund, and that's not this.
I believe he is in the 1984. No, he's still not. He's not quite a weenie. He's a little more weenie in the 84 one, I guess. So.
Also, it was weird that. Of course, we know that Victor Frankenstein's not going to have any friends because he's a weirdo. But his dad is concerned because he spends all day inside making movies, and that he's literally, like, he says out loud that he's afraid his son's going to turn out to be weird. And that seems like a uniquely very honest and genuine fear that a dad would have about their son. Like, oh, is my kid a weirdo?
Well, I'm just a weirdo making movies in the basement. I mean, my daughter, pretty much let her hobby where she wants. Yeah, so.
I think girls get a pass, though, because if your kid turns out weird, you might think school shooter more so than if your daughter turns out weird.
Okay. And also it's Japan where, I mean, weird is more like depressing most of the time. Weird is like you don't go to school anymore, right? Because you're being bullied or something, which that's just a bummer. I guess school shooting's also a bummer, but
Victor is definitely he has the weird depressed look to him, right? Total loner, has permanent panda eyes. He's kind of like the kid that you wouldn't want your kid to bring home, because now you think your kid's weird for hanging out with this other weird kid.
Yeah. That's kind of, I got a student I taught him the last couple of years. He's fun, weird kid, right? He likes monsters and crap, right? Starting this, he starts elementary school. I don't know if he's getting bullied there. He starts becoming less fun in his class, and now he's like absent all the time. I'm like, that's depressing. So, I mean, that's kind of the trick. That's what happens with this version of Victor Frankenstein,
I mean, if I've learned anything at all from this movie, and every movie should have some sort of lesson, it's that you might think he's weird, but he's not, because he's at home trying to reanimate the dead family pet.
Yeah, who knows what the hobby is. I guess we'll wind this one down, though. We did start off saying it'd probably be a little shorter, so that's fine.
Yeah, I'm more excited than ever to see Paranorman now, and I know it won't be under the Occult Disney moniker, but it might be under the Cartoon Cabal, where we're doing all sorts of other non-Disney animations. So I feel like that might have to be in our future for October.
Yeah. Well, we get dark again. Yeah, for sure. As for now, I guess what's up your summer?
The biggest one is IlluminatiComic.com. It's the most successful paranoid American comic in history so far. Hopefully this is the start of a new uptick in trend. But we're pumping out these paranoid conspiracies out into the rest of the world, and Meat Space is finally starting to accept it. If you want to see what all this is about, just go to IlluminatiComic.com and you'll see the most comprehensive comic book format breakdown of the Bavarian Illuminati ever created, possibly now and for the next 100 years. So at least that's what I'm hoping.
All right. Sorry, I just took a look. I realized I'm kind of a frog in a pot boiling myself because I started off without the air conditioning. It's nice and cool in here. I was like, wait a minute, it's really hot in here now. And it is. Okay. Anyway, as for me, go to podcastiopodcastius.org. We just finished talking about the Twilight Zone at Time Enough Podcast. We're going to start talking about Severance. People like Severance, right? And I mentioned talking about really good and really bad movies over at Films and Filth. What have we been doing there recently? Just to stoke the fire. We've been talking about, we've been all up in the Marvel with Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. We did Joker, Spider-Verse, a lot of superheroes in this part of the mix, and weird Indian horror movies. So that's what we're up to there at the moment.
Are the Indian horror movies, I assume, are the low rated, and the Marvel are the high rated?
Correct. That seemed wrong. Gunday. That wasn't a horror movie. That was just a super violent action movie. That was good. Come on. I think it had something political. Oh, I remember when it opens, it has something about Pakistan history that was seen, or Bangladeshi history that was seen wrong by the Bangladeshis. So I really hated the movie and it got low ratings. Laxmi, I'll get back to you about. That's a Hindi horror movie. Haven't watched it yet. We're about to record it. So always watching this and that weird stuff. Come dig it. And yeah, I guess it's time that we should go start a project. Go kill an animal and resurrect it.
And all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all the land and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies. All of these and more on our sticker sheets.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
We're all American stickers. Cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies. All of that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers. They'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret societies. All of these and more on our sticker sheets.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
Paranoid. Yo. I scribble my life away, driven to write the page. Will it enlighten your brain? Give you the flight, my plane, paper the highs ablaze. Somewhat of an amazing feel when it's real to real. You will engage it. Your favorite, of course, the Lord of an arrangement. I gave you the proper results to hit the pavement. If they get emotional, hate maybe your language, a game, how they playing it well without Lakers. Evade them, whatever the cost, they are the shapeshift. Snakes get decapitated, met is the apex. Execution of flame you out, nuclear bomb distributed at war, rather gruesome for eyes to see. Max them out, then I light my trees. Blow it off in the face, you're despising me for what though? Calculated and rather cutthroat. Paranoid American must be all the blunt smoke for real. Lord, give me a day away, vacate. They wait around to hate whatever they say. Matters not in the least bit. We get heavy rotate when a beat hits, so thank us, you're welcome. Fuck the niggas for real, you're welcome. They ain't never had a deal, you're welcome. Man, they lacking appeal, you're welcome. Yet they doing it still, you're welcome.